Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at Fruit Friends, a small card game from Takaki Seiyama and Toshiki Arao. This game was first released in 2017 by Japanese publisher Comet and will be available at Spiel 2018 courtesy of Japan Brand in a multilingual edition. This game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. It plays in about 15 minutes, and you are not technically making friends with fruit. The game box is very small, does not contain any actual fruit in it, but it does have pictures of fruit. And those fruits can be somewhat friendly to you if you collect them in the right amounts, scoring more points than other players in order to win. Here are the components in Fruit Friends. You have a big deck of cards, which consist of multiple copies of each of the 8 fruits shown here. You will be collecting these cards over 3 rounds in the game, or 4 rounds in a 2-player game. And at the end of the game, you score points based on the chart that is shown on each of these cards. And in general, the more you collect of something, the more points you score, but that is not always true. Grapes top out at 4, so anything more than 4 grapes is worthless. Apples, it's the same, but with 5. With the peaches, you will score for only 1 type of the peaches, so do not waste your time collecting both, although sometimes that can't be helped. Melons pair up with grapes, so value for melons depends on how many grapes you collect, with a maximum of 4 points per melon. Same is true for oranges and apples. With bananas, you know from experience probably that you buy too many bananas, they will spoil before you can eat them, and that's represented here by you scoring 0 points if you have 4 or more bananas. Don't buy too many. Kiwis generally ascend in value, but there's a hole at 3. If you collect 3 kiwi, then they're worth nothing. This represents the well-known non-existent Japanese phrase, kiwis in groups of 3 destroy the health of thine family. To start the game, you give each player one of the 5 starting cards. With 4 players, you use only this. With 3, only this. With 2, only these 2. And these cards also show who will start the round and in which direction play goes. Clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise again. Each player gets a stake in some type of fruit at the start of the game, which gives you a reason to care. Each round, you start by getting a hand of 7 cards. You look at those cards and divide them up into 3 piles. So 3 piles of 2, here. Take the 7th card, you throw it out of the game. Each player does the same and puts their pairs down on the board, all simultaneously. Starting with the starting player for the round, that player will expose their cards. The player to their left, in round 1 you go clockwise, will choose one of these pairs. Thankfully, there are not pairs in the game, so we do not have that confusion for pairs and pairs. They will choose one of these pairs, add it to their collection. The next player chooses one of these. Maybe they go with this. And you get whatever is left. And with 4 and 5 players, you don't affect the other 2 players initially. But you'll have these cards, you put them in front of you. The second player will now reveal their pairs. Players will draft, and you go around the table clockwise this way. In round 2, you're going to go counterclockwise, starting with whoever has the grapes. Round 3, do the same, starting with whoever has the kiwis. And then at the end of the game, you score points. And there's an overview of Fruit Friends, which I played 6 times on a review copy from Japan Brand with 2 and 3 players. The 3-player game is highly interactive, and I like the choices that on each turn of the game, you are either picking first from the 3 pairs that are available to you. You have the most options open. Or you're picking second and deciding what the last player gets, okay? Or you're the one making the pairs in the first place. I am trying to decide what to throw out that's either bad for me or great for someone else and divide up these other pairs so that ideally I get the thing I want. But of course, you're restricted based on the cards that you get. You are also restricted on not knowing what other players are going to put down because you all make choices simultaneously on the pairs that you create. I had one group that suggested we play where one player will make their pairs and we draft them and the next one does and the next one does. You could do that if you want. I will not, because I like taking the odds, gambling on that, trying to guess what I think people are going to do, but of course I don't know what they have. So again, playing the odds, taking risk. The rules contain options if you want, where you can trim out the deck with 3 or 4 players, so you'll have a better idea of what's in the deck, and you sort of streamline everything so you make sure you have the same choices in each game, roughly, because you're not going to use all the cards in play. But I like having that variability of play where one game the bananas are raining down like water and just killing people, and the next game they're very rare, and then, ooh, it makes sense to collect the bananas, but you never know how the game's going to go, but it's only 10 to 15 minutes anyway, so then you can just shuffle and play again if you want. The two-player game works a little differently because, of course, you have only 2 players. You play 4 rounds, so each of you are going to start twice. You make 3 pairs of cards like usual, but if you are the one choosing from what someone else has created, you keep 1 pair for yourself, and then you throw a pair out, and the other player gets what's left. So you kind of do the function of 2 players working together. It's very different. Just that feel of knowing that you're going to get the worst of the lot. There's only one other player that you're competing against when you're making those pairs, and so you have to try to devise some way to get what you want. But of course, you don't know what they're going to put out, and sometimes people do things randomly. Taking risk, trying to collect those kiwis and get over that 3 kiwi hurdle that will lead to nowhere. Highly variable, quick game. Like many Japanese games, the game is one mechanism streamlined. You're drafting, collecting, score for the set, and that's it. And you can imagine some sort of American or German design where this would be one element of a larger game, where you're going to be drafting cards in this same manner and then using those cards to build a kingdom or blah, blah, all the usual sort of things that happen. And in here, it's just this punch of drafting in 10 or 15 minutes. Score up your fruit, celebrate, or not, as the case may be. Overrun with bananas once again. So many cards wasted with bananas.